All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Yes, it's time for this month's broadcast of Chicago Junction, the program that takes you through the wonderful world of trains with the help of our panel of knowledgeable rail fans. I am your announcer, Brian Valou, and here is our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, and the chief electrical engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, March the 10th, the year 2021. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now, to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Well, thank you, John. And now let's meet the panel. Again, like I say, my name is Brian Valou. I am a rail fan. I like my model trains. I had worked for the railroad, retired engineer now. I work with Operation Lifesaver, promoting train safety for all the kids when I get a chance. And I like to work and help rebuild steam locomotives. It doesn't matter how big it is. And on my left, I got Kevin Berry.
Hi, my name is Kevin, and I'm a Fulmer. Hi, my name is Kevin Berry. I'm a retired Chicago police sergeant, lifelong Lionel train collector and operator since I was 7. I still have my original Lionel train set. It comes out and makes guest appearances on rare occasions. I'm a director with the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, and when we are allowed to meet in public, I'm also a railroading merit badge counselor with the Boy Scouts.
I'm Ron Stock, retired library director at Eisenhower Public Library, serving Norwich Harwood Heights. I started with my dad and I with when he built me a American Flyer set layout, and had that for probably at least 10, 15 years. And then went to H.O. Gauge. Definitely, like Kevin, a Fulmer, and love trains.
Hi, this is Doug Kenyuk, a longtime rail fan. Unlike those guys, I'm just a rail fan, not a Fulmer.
Wannabe.
End scaler. Got there by first trading my Lionel for HO, then trading the HO away for end scale. Adjunct professor at Wilbur Wright College, and officer in the Railroad and Short Lines Club of Chicago. And we are going to try to meet this weekend, but looks like we're going to have our first meeting in April.
Well, that sounds good. Well, you want to start off with your news?
Sure. Got some interesting stuff here. Caltran is now shipping its first electric train set. Train set, that's what it says. Shipping it to the Transportation Technology Center in Colorado for testing. And TTCI estimates it's going to take them 8 months to test it. I like the last line, though. It says, the EMUs will also include enhanced amenities. They never told us what those amenities are. And a side note, the TTCI is the consulting firm that runs the place. They're changing it. They lost their contract, and a new set of guys are coming in. So there's going to be a question of quality here at some point, because obviously new people come in. They're not used to the way things are done. So just caught that blurb of the article flying by on the news feeds. So, yeah, it's going to take 8 months. They're electrics. They say, quote, it's going to be quieter than a diesel. Not sure about that, because I've heard quiet diesel, so I don't know. Okay. Maryland. Montgomery County did a study and decided that a monorail would not work for transportation. It will cost $4.4 billion, and it was supposed to pull people off of I-270. But their studies showed that only would increase ridership by 10,000, and it would pull the rest of the riders from other transit lines, thereby having no effect on the traffic. So they're scrapping the plans to build a monorail.
Oh, we're in Maryland?
Yeah, Montgomery County. The route would connect Frederick and Shady Grove metro stations. I know where Frederick is. I don't know where Shady Grove is. So that was the story there. It was an interesting study because everybody pushes for monorails, and here's one that says, no, don't build it.
Yeah.
I like this story. This happened up in Montreal. They're laying in a new light rail line, combination light rail subway, where it runs on the subway, runs on the surface. The designers can't stand the sight of the proposed light rail section. They quit. Design firms of the REM light rail system in Montreal can't stand the sight of the section of track, so they decided to walk. According to the report from the Journal de Montreal, the two firms have removed themselves from the $10 billion project, well, because of ugliness. It's just one of those stories that come across.
What did they expect them to do? Put a silk dress on a concrete tie?
I don't know, but it says here the offensive section would run along portions of the Rene, Leveque, and Notre Dame boulevards in the east end of Montreal. Designs have been produced of what stations and the line itself would look like. The thick, Y-shaped concrete piers dot the route. That may be it. You know, you have the thing in the, I don't know. Many residents cited the noise that will be created by the passing trains and the sight of the elevated concrete portion. Have not been in the favor of the chosen design options and would prefer a tunnel. And this is CDPQ Infra, which is leading the project, says it's not possible to build underground. A recent progress report says the challenges with a tunnel include water mains and sewers that are in the way, a danger to metro lines, and risk that buildings might collapse. Officials say at this point all options for light rail work are being reviewed. The proposed system will have 32 kilometers of track, 23 new stations, and the users of the REMs would be able to travel from one end of the city to the other. I can't pronounce those names because they're in French.
If Montreal is anything like Chicago, those are valid concerns. And if you want an example, they opened up the street in front of Holy Name Cathedral on State Street, just immediately north of Chicago Avenue.
Okay.
What they found was a rat's warren of water pipes.
Yep.
And electrical cables.
Oh, a lot of stuff's not charted.
And sewers that were never charted. And
or have been lost in the recharting.
Yeah.
No,
known but to God. And what should have been a 4-month project went well over a year.
Yep. Oh, when they put the new water pipe in our neighborhood, I was watching the guy's trench. They go, hey, that pipe wasn't on our chart. Another X went in the street. And about a third of the pipes they found connected gas pipes and pipes of unknown origin because they didn't even know. Nobody knew what the pipes were for. They weren't water and they weren't gas. So nobody knows what the pipes were, and they had to mark them and work around them. It was fun watching them put those 20-foot pipes, trying to slide it underneath all the other pipes there and stuff.
You know, and it's not just major cities. It's
everywhere.
When I was working, which would be about a year ago, I was out with a NICOR crew out in Dalton, and they were putting down new gas mains.
Mm-hmm.
You know, plastic gas mains, big ones, like 12-inch diameter. They were finding all kinds of subterranean conduits and pipe and steel pipe, lead pipe, plastic pipe. And they had contacted 811, call Julie before you dig. Julie lied to them.
Oh, that's nothing new. I had to call Julie when I put a tent up in the backyard. ordinance. So it was kind of stupid. Anyway, on to the next one. So Maryland doesn't want monorails, but Panama does. Panama's instead of building L's and subways, they're building monorails to serve their city. So this says construction of Panama's Metro Line 3 monorail project has started. And it says the work on the 24.5 kilometer project is expected to take 4 years to complete. It was contracts were let. The construction will be carried out by the HPH consortium comprising of Hyundai Engineering, no surprise there, and Poscal E&C Construction. Phase 1 will run from Albrook to Cincinnati de Fierro, carrying about 160,000 passengers a day, or carrying 160,000 passengers. Doesn't say what the time period is. The line will reduce the average time during peak hours from an hour and 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Has 14 stations. Phase 2 will be 34 kilometers and run to cholera. Looks like cholera, the disease. That's what it looks like. The line is primarily elevated, but will include portions of approximately 5.3 kilometers in tunnels. So a monorail in a tunnel. Makes sense. When the line opens in 2025, it'll operate using a fleet of 28 six-car trains. With regenerative braking, cars will be built by a consortium of Hitachi Rail, and Mitsubishi. So the contract covers provisions of electrification, signaling, communications. So the justification is the mayor of Panama, says, we got to improve mobility in the Panama City. So they're going the monorail route. So that's fine.
Okay, for the old schoolers, 24.5 kilometers is 15.2 miles.
Yeah, it's about 2/3. Yeah. Okay. And this story popped up actually today. Collaborative to aid CTA in predictive occupancy information. A pilot project between this is great, CTA, City Tech Collaborative, Gentech, Intel, and Microsoft to develop predictive capacity models for improved trip planning and operations. They're going to test it on the 79th Street bus route. How might public transportation be different if system operators and riders had accurate real-time capacity information? Now, you notice in here, I read the article, found a couple other ones similar. Nowhere does it say they're going to ask the bus drivers what's going on. But they're going to have Microsoft. You know what that means? The bus crashes every 20 miles or something. I don't know. So basically that's what the article is. They're trying to do is make it so that I remember when they came out with the CTA monitor where they were trying to keep buses from bunching and stuff, and that doesn't work too well. And now they're going to tell you how crowded the bus is before it gets to the stop, and they got the waiting booth things where they give you the times when the bus is supposed to arrive, and it's always 5 minutes off. And so it's going to be interesting. It's a long article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it just says that they're going to test it on the 79th
Which
Street.
alderman's nephew has the contract?
It doesn't say. Here's one for you. I got two more things. This is the second to last one. New short line in Chicago area. And I mean short. This railroad is 476 feet long.
Okay.
Apparently, a railroad called East Chicago Rail Terminal is taking over the switching duties at Chrome LLC. Now, Chrome LLC is on Michigan Avenue in East Chicago, right where the IHB crosses Michigan Avenue. It's a long spur that goes to all these buildings. And apparently, they're tired of paying the IHB a fortune to get cars switched, so they formed a railroad, and they're going to do it themselves with
A trackmobile.
a trackmobile, right. But I laughed at that because, when I first read this, I go, operate approximately 467 feet of track between the connection to the Indiana Harbor Belt and a point 363 feet north of the center line of Michigan Avenue at East Chicago, Indiana, and the end of track on private property. And I'm like, okay, that's a short line.
There's a lot of companies doing that now.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, a lot of companies do their own switching, but what this is that they're getting a cut of the rate making for the cars. If they're a railroad, they get to split the rate charges when they ship.
that's one way to pay for the hustle muscle.
Yeah.
No, it's just like I can ask you this question. What country has the shortest mainline railroad?
Vatican City.
That is true.
It's got their own station, too.
And if you block the track, you go straight to hell on the express train.
It's less than a mile and a half.
And
you got to open the gates to get in.
Yep. And
Into the station.
And finally, I was watching Virtual Rail Fan, and they were doing their 3-day, snippets where the guy summarizes what's been transmitted live for the last 3 days, and he caught the Togo trains from Washington, state of Washington, being shipped to San Diego for scrapping.
Yep, and I got that story.
Okay, good. I'm good. I'm done.
Well, I guess I can start off then. We can go Metra.
All right.
We'll start off with Metra.
Hoorah.
Signalman Union members ratify Metra agreement. The Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen, Local 183, BRS, this week ratified a 7-year labor agreement with Metra. The agreement between BRS and the Chicago Commuter Railroad contains a lump sum signing bonus of $3,400, BRS officials said in a press release. It also includes compound annual wage increases totaling 15.39% over the term of the contract, including back pay, no increase in monthly health care cost sharing, hourly increases to supplement retirement accounts, and no rule changes other than improvements to the bereavement rule. The pandemic-associated issues made this round of bargaining particularly difficult. Despite the tough negotiations, our bargaining committee fought hard, and in the end, the hard-working members of Local 183 made their voices heard and ratified the agreement, says BRS Chairman Kevin Lavin. Metra to buy low-emission switch locomotives. Chicago's Metra plans to purchase 7 new low-emission switch locomotives, including a zero-emission electronic-powered unit. Metra's board approved the plan to issue a request for proposals for the purchase of 6 switch locomotives that at minimum meet the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Tier 4 standards, which there are several that have. The RFP, which will be issued soon, will call for purchasing 1 zero-emission, all-electric powered switch engine. Metra's official said in the press release, the effort is to forward Metra's goal to reducing its carbon footprint by reducing diesel emissions, meeting the highest federal emission standards, they say.
How many flat cars are they going to need to hold all the D batteries? How many flat cars are going to need to hold all the D batteries for that electric engine?
Don't know yet. We're working on that. The zero-emission all-electric locomotive would be a first in Metra's fleet. Metra OK's purchase of 500 rail cars.
Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say it, but you did. Thank you. Metra's board yesterday approved the purchase of up to 500 multi-level rail cars from Alstom Transport, Inc. These cars will be basically, if you go online and look at New Jersey Transit and also Long Island, you will see exactly how the cars will look.
Are these the ones that have real double deck and not the gallery cars?
Yes.
That's the ones that were suggested that Amtrak should switch to, put in a little more comfortable seats. Use that if they want to double
On the
capacity
clockers.
on the Hiawatha. If they want to double the Milwaukee service,
Yeah.
and that's when you admit they change the subject when you ask them.
Well, it's not so much that Amtrak. Well, Amtrak has got its own agenda because, well, we'll talk about them when we talk about a certain train that's going to be dismantled.
Oh,
Yes. The initial order will be for 200 cars. Metro will have the option to buy up to 300 additional cars for $1.8 billion. The official said in the press release. The cars specified in the contract are customized versions of the Cordona duplex model and will be built at Alstom's factory in Hornell, New York.
with fine Corinthian leather.
You stole my line. But with the rich Corinthian leather.
Yes.
And body by Fleetwood.
That might be worth seeing.
A third of the rail car contract value will be provided by Illinois-based suppliers. Metro officials say the new cars will be wheelchair accessible, have 2 entranceways with doors nearly level with the platform. The cars will also feature security camera in the passenger area and a microprocessor controlled braking system. The first car is expected to be delivered 42 months after contract is finalized. Now that is going to be the key.
We're basically saying, about 2028, 2030, we'll see them.
Well,
With
3.5 years from today. Or
Well,
3.5 years from when they finalize the contract.
Right. That could take another year.
with a full base order to be completed 30 months after later. The 40% of Metro's current fleet of cars is rated in marginal or poor condition. We're finally modernizing one of the oldest fleets in the country, and in doing so, we will improve operations while elevating our passenger experience to an entirely new level. It is really part of our long-term plan to evolve, serve the changing needs of today's commuters, says Metro Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director Jim Derwinski.
This ties into the story that Metro released 2 weeks ago to ABC7, stating that they would have new passenger cars in 2025.
That's just 3 years away.
Well, it's 4.
We were only in 21.
22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, 4 years.
And we're only 3 months into 2021.
It's possible. Depends how fast they get that contract and if they don't keep changing the specifications as they're being built.
Yeah, these will be the new cars with the more comfortable seats and every seat having a jack to power your laptop.
Oh, that'd be nice.
That's what they promised.
As we... All right. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Amstar to proposes privatizing Amtrak in the Northeast Corridor service. Ameristar Rail LCC proposed privatizing Amtrak operations. Under its proposal, the private group says it will expand NEC's capacity to meet travel demand over the next 20 to 40 years. The group would operate 160-mile-an-hour trains, including triple-class service for coach, business, and first class. Haven't they been doing that?
Oh, they've been doing something out there.
Oh, I know they haven't been doing 160.
No. I think they're running like about 110, 125, something like that. in sections, not everywhere.
Yes, in sections, and there is one spot where they can do 150. That's in Connecticut, right near the Connecticut. I got new eye teeth. Still trying to see. No, they have a spot that's between the border of Connecticut and Rhode Island. They have a stretch of track that they can do 150. Other than that, for the first time, all passengers, including senior citizens, students, and families, will have affordable, equal access to high-speed rail service in America, which is funded by all taxpayers. Additionally, the group says it would extend the NEC service to new routes, eliminate inefficient terminal operations in New York City and Washington, D.C., reduce congestion, delays, and create additional track and yard capacity.
Are they selling Swampland too?
Have I got a deal for you?
A chicken in every pot and a pot on every stove.
And to smoke it.
The group will arrange private financing to fund its proposal. Its project will cost $5 billion for NEC's expansion and to create a centralized maintenance center, which will likely be in Delaware. Geez, where have I heard of Wilmington before? We simply will be setting ourselves up as a company, much like in the airline industry. God, will they never learn? Where you have various private companies operate routes for major carriers, like American has American Eagle, or United has United Express.
Yeah.
Says Scott Spencer, ASR co-founder and chief operating officer. According to WHYYY organization report, the private entity has a different name, but they operated as affiliated carrier under the marketing brand. So we are simply using airline model to improve Amtrak service. Why would they want models? AMR would also have to get approval from the U.S. Department of Transportation to pursue its goal. Amtrak could not be reached for comment prior to press time.
The flaw in there.
1 week later.
Oh, 1 week later, okay.
Amtrak comments on NEC privatization proposal. I read Progressive Rail, so I get that. And this is where I'm getting some of this good stuff. Amtrak has reviewed the private firm's proposal of calling for privatization of the national intercity passenger railroads Northeast Corridor service. Ameristar's LCC's proposal suggests it could expand Amtrak's NEC capacity to meet travel demand over the next 20 to 40 years. The group said it would operate 160-mile-an-hour trains, include triple-class service for coaches, business, and first class in each train. In response, in a request for comment, Amtrak Beth Bowman says, well, why is that black lines through all this? In an email, she wrote an email. Okay. Email that the railroad has corresponded with the rail officials about the proposal. In response to specific points in the group's proposal, Toll noted the following. Although Ameristar Rail has proposed creating a centralized maintenance facility, likely in Delaware, that would employ 150 people. Well, Amtrak already employs more than 1,000 Delaware residents, primarily at 2 equipment maintenance facilities. If Amtrak wasn't operating trains maintain the equipment on the Northeast Corridor, most of these jobs would go away. It's not likely that riders will be comfortable sharing small closed compartments on a train as Ameristar Rail has proposed while the country is recovering from a pandemic. You know, they're answering in today's world.
Yeah.
Sometimes. The assertion that a private group could expand the NEC for only $5 billion does not take into account that the NEC has a large state of good repair deficit, calculated at $42 billion, that must be addressed to maintain current Amtrak and commuter services. They have a good repair deficit at $42 billion? Well, maybe we do need some new plans on some things.
Yep.
Oh, God. Mayor could not produce, proposal would not produce more money for Amtrak, as proposed, because the vast majority of Amtrak revenue comes from passenger fares, which Ameristar Rail would receive. Toll also noted that Amtrak already is pursuing many of the good ideas proposed, including an agreement with Metropolitan Transportation Authority in New York City to plan for eventual operation of Amtrak trains to Jamaica and Long Island. Oh my God!
The flaw in that what is that, Eurostar, Ameristar, or whatever it
Ameristar.
is if they're comparing themselves to how airlines work, the airports are owned by local governments of some form. And the airlines pay a landing fee and a takeoff fee and rent to use the terminals. That's why the airlines could charge the rate they charge, because basically all they're paying for is the right to park the plane and the fuel.
Whatever they can get.
Yeah. So Amtrak owns that track, the Northeast Corridor, last I looked, and they got tenants. And these guys are comparing apples and steel I-beams.
Can I ask two questions, please?
Okay, yeah, I don't need to finish the story yet.
Isn't the Northeast Corridor the only profitable section of Amtrak?
Yeah. It also depends on how you define profit,
right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and it's not so much a question as a comment. Amtrak just got a sea bag full of money with this COVID bill that was passed today, or signed by the president. You know, they got a sea bag full last time, and they got another sea bag full this time. And they got a $42 million unfunded maintenance budget.
No, it's billions.
Billion?
Well, the Hellgate Bridge needs to be repaired. That alone's going to cost a chunk of money. If they don't do something about it.
Brian was on the article only addressed equipment maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In on the Northeast Corridor. Because basically the Northeast Corridor technically is New York to Washington.
I thought they extended it to Boston, too.
Oh, it does go to Boston. You can accept. Yes, they finally finished the complete electrification from New Haven to Boston. So yeah, that's why you can, like Excella, goes coasting down the slight hills at 125. So anyway, we're having noted. But they were talking about the elimination of the need for engine changes in Washington for trains operating from the Northeast Corridor to Virginia and the South. There's already a comprehensive NEC service improvement plan, which may be 30 years old, which was developed by the Federal Railroad Administration. Yeah, we really need them guys around. I got a story for them too.
Well, it's less than 50 years old. It's valid.
They lost in court, which is with input from Amtrak and many components of and includes many of the components of Ameristar Rail's proposal. Geez, so they've mulled all that time trying to get together, and these guys put it together in 6 months, Rail. And somehow they're just now putting it to their plans. Makes you wonder. Montana has a senator that likes Amtrak, and they want he's going to put a bill in to restore Amtrak's long distance routes and rehire furloughed workers. Because everybody's sitting there, they're finding out they're actually firing some of the furloughed workers.
Yep.
And not just Amtrak. UP. BN.
Yeah, they're running those land barges. They don't need so many employees.
Yeah, and they're sitting there.
A train now 3 miles long with... If you watch I watch on a virtual rail fan, they got like 5 diesels in the front, 3 at midsection, and 5 in the back now. And the train takes almost 9 minutes to go by the camera.
Every couple months, there is a wreck from one of them long trains.
Yep.
They try to keep going around, and they're finding out that they're having to replace more knuckles than they thought on a train. With your coupling, the knuckle, the nice movable knuckle,
gets yanked out.
Is the weakest point. It weighs about 80 pounds.
So what do they do now with a 3 mile long train? The conductor takes a nice little hike for about 2 hours?
Well, they keep saying that they're going to have a maintenance man following in a truck.
It makes perfect sense. Let's see, put 2 guys in the front. And because we eliminated the caboose with the other 2 guys in it, but we'll have 2 guys in a truck follow the train instead. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, we talked about that 3 or 4 months ago.
But yeah, Senator John Tester has introduced a bill that would reinstate furloughed Amtrak employees and return complete long-distance service routes such as the Empire Builder. Tester has been critical of staff cuts and reductions on long-distance routes that Amtrak made last year to the economic impact of the COVID pandemic. Not to mention, people were still riding trains.
Right.
Well, that explains why I haven't seen the Empire Builder go by on the Milwaukee line. So
yeah, well, they took away the.
They do 3 days a
daily.
week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not daily anymore.
I think it's Monday,
well, if you want to say
Wednesday, Friday.
To get it used, you should have been riding the car. Then you would have gotten used to the cutback that they did.
Yeah.
Because they promised that they would put Cardinal back to full, and they have yet to do it. And all of a sudden, some of the double track that they had, CSX started single tracking.
Makes perfect sense.
Anyway, these cuts were an unacceptable attack on rural America. My legislation will right the wrong, reinstating Montana's furloughed Amtrak employees and restoring long-distance service to the builder. Our state has been hit hard by the pandemic, and my bill will help put our economy back on track and get Montanans back to work. Tester's bill will authorize appropriate federal funding in the form of grants to Amtrak to restore routes, rehire furloughed employees. Amtrak operates 15 long-distance routes in 47 states across the country connecting rural and urban centers, and the Empire Builder long-distance line includes 12 stations along the Montana High Line that serves 121,429 passengers who boarded or disembarked in the state in 2019, according to Tester's release. Amtrak officials said in an email statement they agree with Tester that the nation's national network are important and improve mobility to underserved regions. We want to restore service to pre-pandemic levels and recall our furloughed workers to operate safe and dependable Amtrak service across country. Legislation to do that is in the COVID-19 relief bill pending final House action. We hope the Senate follows Senator Tester and other leaders of both parties to complete the passage and send it to the President so we can restore service in time for the summer to travel season. Okay.
Got the toggle story?
Finally! Yes. The apparent last run of Cascades Talgo equipment. It arrives in California. New owner says the equipment will be scrapped in 2 or 3 days. They're not giving anybody a real chance to buy it. They're selling it and they're scrapping it. And then when the company that has it here now, owner, says they're basically paid to get it out of the state, and they're not given any time for the sale. Nobody comes up to want it, it's getting cut. Anyway, the new owner of Washington State's 2 Talgos train sets say the equipment is available, but not for long, 2-3 days. It's a sensitive matter for everyone involved. It wasn't supposed to turn into a spectacle, says Noah McCann of NSM Transportation, tells News Trains Wire. He adds, if anybody is interested, they're still available, but they're going to be gone in a matter of 2 or 3 days. According to Washington State Department of Transportation, the agency sold both train sets to McCann's company for $21,000 total, but was responsible for considerable expense of getting them off the property. We paid more than that for them. After the purchase, we aggressively tried to market them, but Amtrak doesn't want them. The train Newswire caught up McCann aboard Mount Baker and Mount Rainier equipment near San Luis Obispo, California, Monday. The train sets ran coupled together as an Amtrak special on the Coastal Starlight schedule, leaving Seattle Sunday, the day the southbound train hadn't been operating since the frequency was reduced last October. If there are no takers after arrival in Los Angeles, McCann plans to immediately begin dismantling the 2 train sets he bought from Washington State's DOT's rail division, put them up for sale last year. We're reusing the interior fittings on other projects, but it's a private job to dismantle them for the state of Washington. In reality, nobody's coming up to pay to move these things, and they're getting scrapped. And then as Transportation was selected for the sale, which the state agency had rejected bids and requests for donation of 1 train set or some of the permanently coupled cars, according to the stores at the Northwest Railway Museum. Members of the Southern Train Commission also traveled to the Pacific Northwest to determine whether the Talgo Series 4 train sets in Washington selling might fit into the future of the proposed new New Orleans Mobile, Alabama service. According to the Commission's Nocturus, we went all the way out there with the understanding we were going to meet with the representatives of Washington State DOT who would answer specific questions about the equipment. None of that happened, and the third-party representative they sent to meet us wouldn't answer any questions, so we didn't bid. They really didn't want to sell them. They just wanted them scrapped.
Sounds like they wanted the pieces parts.
The Washington State Agency made a decision to sideline its 2 remaining series train sets and 2 owned by Amtrak, the Mount Hood and the Mount Olympus, when the maintenance agreement with Talgo expired in July 2020. The Amtrak train sets are now at the company's Beech Grove shops, heavy maintenance shops in Indiana. The 5th train set, the Mount Adams, originally built for Amtrak but sold to WestDOT, was destroyed in the fatal accident in 2017 derailment. The 2 Series 8 train sets owned by Oregon have been sufficient to handle the Cascade route since service was reduced to 1 daily between Seattle and Eugene, Oregon, round trip last March as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. That equipment also handling qualification runs for the eventual resumption of service on the Point Bypass, which has not been used since the derailment, leased the Amtrak Horizon equipment to fill in temporarily when the Oregon Series 8 might not be available. Talgo provides maintenance on them in Seattle under a modified agreement. Meanwhile, with the U.S.-Canadian-U.S. border still closed indefinitely and no firm date to increase Cascade's frequencies, negotiations to bring the 3 Series 8 train sets to the Pacific Northwest had stalled. Talgo modified that the equipment, built for but never operated by Wisconsin, at its Milwaukee shops. Basically, Amtrak says we don't want to run them no more. We're not going to maintain them.
Looks like they're all trying to bury the memory of it.
That's exactly it. I still think they harbor. They still blame the equipment for that accident.
Yep, no doubt about it.
They still blame the equipment. And the equipment did nothing. All the reports said engine failure, operator failure.
Yeah, wasn't it lack of training and a whole bunch of things? Yeah. I was surprised State of Illinois didn't swoop in to buy them. They buy all kinds of goofy stuff.
Well, they had a chance to buy the Talgo equipment. Said no. Those train sets. I mean, the 2 train sets that are now sitting in Indiana, they were originally for Wisconsin service, and that's when their governor came in and said, I'm going to use that money for fixing the track, to fix the highways. And they told them, no, you're not. It's going back in the pool. Christie tried to do the same thing when he stopped work on the tunnels under the Hudson. He says, yeah, that's going to take care of our roads. No. Those were for the tunnel. And you lost all that money from the government. So why are you taking so long?
And now for something completely different. Menards doesn't believe in the pandemic. They have been coming out with some great new buildings. They came out with the Trinity Church in Ogage. Beautiful church, $60, 18 inches high, 15 inches wide, 7 inches deep. Couple of trees, couple of people, nice church board out in front, and of course, Jack the dog. They came out with a complete module, called Campervix Secret Hideaway. Now this has got to be down south someplace. It's an Airstream trailer with a pickup truck that the headlights light up. It's got a picnic table, a fence with a mailbox, a tire planter, 2 deers, 3 flamingos, 3 birds, a doghouse, and Jack the German Shepherd.
No still?
No. You can make your own still. It's $39.99. It's a drop-in module. All you got to do is add the power supply. It also comes with 5 pre-drilled holes that run across the back of the module. And they offer 2 sets of 5.5-inch trees. 9 trees, $15. One set is a deep summer green, and the other is a 6-pack, 5.5-inch trees, $15. And they're changing colors to a fall configuration. But it's got to be southern with the deer and the flamingo. And they got, all kinds of light-up trucks they were giving away if you buy stuff. And they've got a 50th anniversary.
Yeah, 50th.
50th anniversary Amtrak station. It has 4 light-up signs. It's got a really nice Amtrak train schedule board out in front of it, with an information light-up panel, or an information panel. It's got a garbage can. It's got a mailbox. It's got planters. It's got 2 people. It has the ever-present Jack the dog. It's $80. It looks good. It's got the Amtrak blunted arrow for the anniversary. Some people would say it's the pointless arrow because they're talking about Amtrak. I won't say that. The building is a blue-gray color, but the top is striking red. All 4 sides have large Amtrak signs with the pointless arrow logo, recently revived for the carrier's 40th anniversary. That's what it says here. The signage is striking when illuminated. Each letter of the Amtrak comes on in sequence. Next is the red of the arrow's tail, and finally the blue arrow shaft. Once on, it remains steady and then sequences once again. It doesn't look bad in the black and white copy that I'm working off of. It looked killer in color. I am not a big fan of the High Speed Rail Alliance, but they released their Southeast Regional Rail Plan, which runs from Washington in the northeast corner all the way down to Miami, through Rolla, through Charlotte, through Columbus, through Atlanta, all the way to New Orleans. And coming out of Charlotte, you go to Atlanta, up to Chattanooga, up to Nashville, and then west of Memphis. It looks very good on paper. I personally won't be buying any stock in the venture. but it looks good. Looks killer on paper. ScaleTrains.com makes deal with MTH for HO and S tooling. Scale Trains has a great reputation in the industry, and the MTH HO tooling will make a great addition to their already impressive lineup, said Mike Wolf, president of MTH Electric Trains. S-Gauge fans will find the ScaleTrains.com team loaded with talent and model railroading experience. Production testing of new products is already happening. Models are expected to be available to the public in 2022. MTH Electric Trains will fulfill all outstanding customer HO and S-Scale pre-orders. So, MTH Electronics has been sold. MTH HO and S tooling has been sold. So now it's just a matter of somebody buying the MTH O-Gauge product, and I hope that happens. Today, Classic Toy Trains magazine sent out their e-letter, and the lead story is that Trains.com. Welcome to the new Trains.com. Trains.com is the new online home of the Kalmbach family of train-related brands. With the launch of our new site, your Classic Toy Trains magazine subscriber benefits are moving as well. You'll enjoy an improved website experience when accessing your favorite Classic Toy Trains content. And there's a few interesting articles on wiring and ballasting track. Good stuff. And I will release the microphone to Mr. Ron.
Okay. There were two articles for HO. One was done by the Great Northern Railway Historical Society. It came out in December 2020, and it's an insert. They usually have 4 different short magazine articles, and this one was done by Andrew Kalamata. It's Klamka, and it's a 24-page article, and it deals with Boeing and the 747 jet airliner and how they transported it with the Great Northern Railway. And it lists various car numbers and the types of cars that they had and their various constructions. And so if you were a train and railroad enthusiast, you could ship your own Boeing 747 to wherever you want to send it, and via the Great Northern Railway. Not necessarily in conjunction with this, but similar to this.
Nice caboose.
Model Railroad News, which has all different scales, but in this case it's also HO, has the Boeing Skybox car in HO from Spring Creek Model Trains, and this one is for the 777 Boeing, and it has produced cars that would transport various airplane parts also. So it's so one is a 747, the other is a 777, and the one in the Great Northern Society is you can build your own cars or provide flat cars, probably that you can get online to be produced. Their modeling articles are very good, and they come with all kinds of blueprints and show all the various types of cars that are involved with the transportation of a 747. The other article is Spring Creek. Spring Creek is Model Trains is located at 304 East Bryson Avenue, Bryson Avenue, and it's in Desher, Nebraska, and it's 68340. If you want to call them, it's 707, or excuse me, 407 365 7627. Their address is for Spring Creek. Print is rather small. Spring Creek Model Trains, all one word, and it's .com. So if you're interested in modeling a combined train airplane venue, these two magazines would have you pretty much covered. The next thing that I have, which I got at, is HO scale. Also comes in Lionel scale. It's Jack's dog food, which of course Jack is the German Shepherd dog that Menards sponsors. He's located on the loading dock, and there are several dogs, or several containers of dog food that are sitting behind him. There's 4 guys that are on the lower floor and going up the stairs. There's another 2 guys working up on the roof. And the model is J. Shepherd and Sons Dog Food Factory. And it's all pre-modeled. It's available at only Menards. The dimensions on it are, let's see.
Looks like 3D to me.
Yeah. There it is. The dimensions for HO are 10 inches wide, 6 inches deep, and 6 inches high. And it's pretty cool. They got a sign that, when I saw it lit, has Jack's the dog food, and then it shows the dog food being poured, and it lights up and down as it's being poured into a doggy dish. The only thing that I think it could have had was maybe a little dish of food for Jack, because Jack's laying down there with nothing to eat except the dog food, which is behind him in a box or bags. Anyway, it has a light-up system for the signs and other illuminations that are included. It's very nicely detailed. They have Jack's Best, J.R. Shepherd and Company, Acre Booba, another sign which is located next to it with Jack the German Shepherd. They have a couple of portholes, doors that you could have a railroad car go through to load up the dog food. And the title at the top is J. Shepherd and Sons, manufacturing quality dog food since 1926, which also happened to be the year that my mom was born. So anyway, it's really cool. Highly recommended if you want to add a scenery to your railroad, and provides a point of interest for the stoppage of your freight trains.
Are you implying that Jack is the not-so-silent partner?
I think Jack is the partner. Yeah. The only thing I do think they should have had like a little, cup there for his food. That's the only thing I thought. There was a real nice article in Passenger Train Journal, which was the first issue of 2021. They have a several-page article on the Horseshoe Curve in Pennsylvania, and in addition to that, they have part 2 of the Cincinnati passenger trains. And the previous issue was 2020 issue number 4. And the Cincinnati article has all the different passenger trains that came into Cincinnati, and there were a slew of them in its heyday. The Illinois Central, the Pennsylvania, the New York Central, the C&O, the L&N, Southern, yes, and Norfolk and Western, the B&O.
There were 7 railroads.
Okay.
City of Seven Hills.
And that's pretty cool how they worked that out. Yeah.
That's it. No, it's the City of Seven Hills with 7 railroads.
That's pretty cool. Anyway, it's a really nice article. The other thing that was interesting in it, and it was a one-page article called Cincinnati Secret Station, and it turned out that the station wasn't actually in Cincinnati, but it was eventually moved to Cincinnati because the artist who created it was named for, I believe, his daughter's name, and it's located in it was in 1923 on Broad Street. Train shed was gutted by fire, and the sculpture was saved. When they did that, Collins explained, they said, "What are we going to do with these monstrosities? They're huge." Anyway, they're still located in Cincinnati. You have to go kind of off the beaten path, according to this, but it does give you directions to where this mural is, and it's pretty cool looking. It's really neat for railroad history.
What page?
Oh, it's on page 33. And according to the author, it was sort of hidden and lost, I think. And the other thing is, the guy who knew about it, they never got the full history because he protected his wife from being hit by a car, but he got hit and killed in New York City. And that was in 1915. And unfortunately, because of his death, they lost the history of that particular monument. The second article runs to page 35 and starts at page 24. So it's a good, lengthy, nice article. The Horseshoe Curve and his article is very, very large. It's long, I should say. It's let's see. It starts off at page 36 and goes to 51. And It tells you just about everything you need to know, including several of the hotels that have scenic views located on the curve. The world-famous Horseshoe Curve. There's called the Tunnel Inn.
By the
And
Glen's
museum.
Tunnels.
Pardon me?
By the Glen's Tunnels.
Yeah. I have to admit, I've never been there yet, and that's one of my bucket list tours that I'd like to go to.
Well, this summer would be a good year to go east.
Yeah,
Well, you got the East Broad Top that's going to be running.
right.
Cumberland's going to be having the first East Coast Mallet running with 1309.
Right.
That's going to be running. Plus, you got Strasburg.
Right.
You got a few other railroads in Pennsylvania. One in Titus, where the first oil well is. And they've got a nice tourist run running there with a BL2. So if you like some first generation diesels,
Yeah.
plus, if you go to Freedom, you'll see one of Elgin's finest locomotives running, the one that Dave built, using the same plans as the Leviathan. But they painted up in Bensy colors. But if you want to see the Leviathan, all you need to do is go to Elizabethtown. That's where it and the funeral car are
Okay.
on display. You get the Kempton Wanamaker and Southern. If you want to see wartime baby Whitcomb in there, painted up for the Lehigh and New England paint scheme, representing the one that they did buy. That's a 5 mile short line on an old Reading piece of track. We have, court's going to Altoona itself, the Railroaders Museum. Memorial. It's one of the actual labs buildings they used. That was Altoona, the building facility where they did all the tests for anything that they used. They tested, and you can see a lot of the equipment's there, and a lot of the equipment's operational.
Thank you. In addition, they have a little article about the Station Inn, which is located on the curve. So, if you're planning a trip, you might want to get this issue of the magazine because it has a lot of information about that in the area. So, anyway, I would highly recommend it. Let's see. Actually, in the Railfan and Railroad Board, the March 2021 issue, which has the Australian iron ore train featured on the cover. What Brian had talked about earlier, they have a little brief article on page 18 on the Metro Board's of the new Alstrom multi-levels cars, which he had talked about earlier, and that they are providing 500 cars. They're expecting delivery, according to this article, 2024. So, and Metro has the oldest fleet because some of those cars were from 1950 and 51, 52, in the 50s that were done.
Well, that's when
Yeah.
they were built.
Yeah, yeah.
That's, the first ones I actually believe were Bud, and they went to Burlington, but they didn't have cab cars. And then when the Pullmans were built, first Northwestern,
Then they put the cabs in.
and then they made the cab cars.
Yeah, I was surprised because I was born in 51, and I was looking in, it was in Burlington Historical Magazine. And I think it was, they might have even been built in, like, the last year in 1949 maybe, that I saw a picture of one, and I'm like, these things have been around this long? Because I wasn't expecting
And
them.
then they were being pulled by steam.
Yeah, yes, they were by steam engines. I couldn't believe it. I was like, because especially when you saw them connected to the old cars, it was like night and day difference. So anyway, yeah, they really do need to be replaced. And that's soon enough.
And they'll sold the old ones to Iowa Pacific, and we're all set.
Yeah.
If you are fortunate enough to have the MTH Metra cars, there were 6 smooth side silver gray Metra cars made by MTH.
Yeah.
A couple of those match car numbers that were built by Pullman for Metra.
Yeah, a long time ago.
See, the cars, no cars had been built by Pullman for Metra. When did Metra come into existence?
You're thinking maybe built for the RTA?
Not even the RTA.
They
The
were built
RTA.
for they were built for Burlington, weren't
Yeah,
they?
for the Santa Fe, Burlington, what was it? They were for railroad, Rock Island.
Might have been for the Rock Island.
Rock Island, C&W,
Yeah.
Milwaukee Road, I think.
Milwaukee Road.
Milwaukee Road, because you can't say Burlington because they got all Buds.
That's right.
Those were all Bud cars. And so, yeah, the Pullmans were built for that. Now, they did build bi-level cars in the 70s, but they had pantographs on them.
The Illinois Central jobs.
Yeah.
The Illinois Central. That's when they came in. Because I got to see the switchover from the old cars to the new cars. When I was up at boot camp. I came here in 70. And I went on my first, did my first trip on a Chicago train with Chicago Station to Great Lakes.
You know, I mentioned Iowa Pacific. All their equipment, because the company's in bankruptcy, all their equipment's up for sale. And the bankruptcy judge ordered this guy to put it up for auction. So all the gallery cars that Iowa Pacific owned, they mounted 12 of them. I didn't know they had that many, are about $20,000 each. If you want to buy yourself a gallery car, and it's like 100 pieces of equipment. It was like 3 pages long, the listing.
I know they've got one car in there I want to get.
So it's
I would love to get the money to put, but they have the other observation car for the Reading Crusader.
Okay.
Ooh.
One is already at the Pennsylvania Railroad Museum. The other one was sold to the Spirit of Washington dinner train, and it became one of the table cars in it. I know because I got a picture of it.
Okay, I just mentioned that. You can find it online. They're disposing of trucks and stuff, but it was like 100 pieces of equipment plus the locomotives.
Yeah.
So and of course it says it's scattered all over the U.S. So I'm looking through the list. Like there's 2 gallery cars in South Carolina. Now, why are they doing in South Carolina?
Right.
Iowa Pacific had nothing down in South Carolina, but there's 2 of them down there.
Yes, they were down there because they did one of the operations down there.
Tourist line?
Smoky Mountain.
Okay.
They were the same people that did the Mount Hood.
Right.
They're in the
Mission Mountain
same.
closed down.
Huh?
The Mission Mountain line closed down.
Mission Mountain?
Mission Mountain, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they pulled the plug last month.
Well, see, that's because they haven't been getting any people. A lot of. See, that's the one thing. Unfortunately, we're probably going to use a few things. The pandemic is what did the final nails in the coffin for Roadside America. And, you know people, and the people just want to buy the land.
Yeah.
So anyway. But happy days are coming again. Grand Canyon Railway.
Woohoo!
To return steam engines to service.
Are they getting the 2 Santa Fe's coming in or not? Because there was some talk that Santa Fe has one, and I think there was one in Texas that they're restoring. And they were wondering if they're going to run it on the Grand Canyon route.
All right. Well, that's something that's got to be worked out.
Right.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. 2,900. It's sitting on the trackage of the Santa Fe Southern Railway out of Lamy. That could. They've already have done a trip with the 3951. The First Northern. They actually did run down. They did an excursion out to Albuquerque and ran it down to the Grand Canyon. They did do a couple round trips on a weekend. But the Grand Canyon Railway is planning to return steam this year. Railway announces 8 dates from April through October, when one of the railway's 2 steam locomotives will be pulling the 9:30 a.m. train from Williams, Arizona, to the historic village inside the Grand Canyon National Park. Ticket price is the same as everyday trains, powered by the more modern diesels. The steam-powered is scheduled for the first Saturday of each month from April through September on Earth Days, April 24th, September 18th, the 210th anniversary of the Grand Canyon Railway. Engine number 4960 runs on recycled vegetable oil and snow melt. Built in 1923, weighing 310 tons, the Green Steam Machine. The railway carries hundreds of thousands of people a year and keeps about 70,000 automobiles off the road leading to the national park, it said in the news release.
You get off the train and you're jonesing for French fries.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. And last Saturday was International Women's Day. To help celebrate, on the Strasburg Railroad, an all-female steam crew marked it. The first all-female crew. Now, there have been crews where a gal was the engineer and where she was also a fire person. Hard being politically correct.
I think you could use firemen As a
As
job
Mort Saul
title.
once said, fireperson of indeterminate sex.
I would rather be politically incorrect than have to mutter that statement.
Okay. Okay. Strasburg Railroad's first ever all-female steam crew will run trips. It's surprising that they are the first all-steam crew. Will run all trips on the Pennsylvania Tourist Line on Saturday, March 6th. The assignment coincides with International Women's Day, March 8th, and Women's History Month. ABC on Sunday had a small story.
Yep, there was a posted on Facebook.
Yeah, it was all, yeah.
I dropped it on a friend's site because she's nuts about that day. So I said, hey, check this out.
Okay, in the cab will be Andrea Biesecker as engineer and Shelley Hall as fireman. They'll run all 5 scheduled trips that day on that wonderful 4.5-mile carrier run. It was Hall's suggestion to deploy the all-woman crew. I was just thinking. Now these gals are really. They both worked for Strasburg. In fact, the fireman Shelley, she still works for him, and she went on to go back to start teaching at her school that she graduated from. She teaches welding.
Oh. Cool.
And Shelley has got her license to work pressure boilers. That's why she's the main welder at Strasburg now. She came up, did her apprenticeship, and boom. But she qualified on the 475, which was the same one that she rebuilt.
How you see her now? Don't touch that because I didn't fix it yet.
But that's good. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Was that
it's great something like
was that an actual shoveling fireman, or was it an auto stoker?
No, they have no auto stokers.
I'm just asking, sir.
I
Take
am
no
telling you.
offense.
At the end of that day, I don't think you want to mess with that person.
No, because
He'll bury you in coal.
that's a hard day's work.
You get hit
Yeah,
by,
but
you
see,
get hit by
you
a
know,
shovel, shoved into the firebox. Ain't no problem, you know.
You know, and the thing is, it's not like this, you know, like running the Silverton. Okay, when you got a 45-mile run, at least you're 4.5 miles with this.
Yeah, but if that's a 9-mile round trip 5 times during the day, her arms and her back are going to remember that she put in a honest day's work.
Right.
Well, then I could be her.
Understudy.
We won't go there.
Yeah.
We don't want to get taken off the air here.
But
That was not
congratulate, you
the
know,
direction I was going.
trust me, you.
You're in a prime mood tonight, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Boy, you get your teeth back and you're just hell on wheels.
Yeah. And now if they gave me the correct eye teeth so I could see what I'm saying.
Here, try my bifocals.
Anyway, kudos to Strasburg. And as a side note, Strasburg Railroad is the oldest railroad in the United States. And it's apparent it's still running under its original charter. And it became that, because their charter was signed in 1832. There was only one railroad older than it, and the company that had the railroad decided it was going to officially merge it and get rid of its paperwork. And that was the B&O.
Oh.
And at that time, it was the oldest railroad in the world, still using its same charter, until 1982, when the company CSX became CSX. So
You have a fine. Go ahead.
Now, the oldest railroad in the world is now a tourist line.
Is that the Stockton and Darlington?
Nope.
In
The
Britain?
Festiniog.
Oh, okay.
The Vestiniog, it was a slate carrying railway to move all the slate, 2-foot gauge, and it actually expanded more and more. They relayed one line, the Welsh Highland Railroad, which connects with it, and they operated. Relayed its whole line, 40 miles, going across regular mainline tracks and all, street running, and they used some of those beautiful garrets that they had running in Africa. God. But they're older than the Strasbourg by 2 weeks. By 2 weeks.
You have a fondness for the American Locomotive Company, correct?
More Baldwin than the American, but yes.
Okay. I decided to build a new model for my Arsenal of Freedom train. I had, Deuce and a Half and Jeeps and an M4. So I decided I wanted to build an M7 Priest, which was the U.S. Army's first venture into self-propelled artillery. And it's built on an M4 Sherman tank hull and suspension. And I'm doing some digging around, and they were made by Alco. The railroads did a lot for the war effort besides moving troops and equipment. And there's a little American Legion post. It might be a VFW post. It's a military veterans group on 35th and Damon. And they have a 105 howitzer in the parking lot. And stamped on the plate on the side of that howitzer is decommissioned by Pullman Standard. Pullman Standard had the contract to pour molten lead or molten steel down the barrels of all the deactivated military equipment.
Well, it's I was a gunner's mate, and I found it funny when I'm cleaning. Here I am cleaning these 45s, and I see Alco, or I see Singer on the slides.
Union switch and signal.
Huh?
Union switch and signal.
In fact, when I opened my electrical panel on my gun mount and looking at the vacuum tubes and all, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the casings themselves, and I'm seeing built by Belgian Loam. No, I'm serious.
Glad you could see that.
Yeah.
One of the things that the Lionel Corporation made during World War II were the ship's compasses for the Navy.
Binnacles, yeah. Binnacles, compasses. They got the Maritime Awards for it.
Give me a break, Brian. I don't speak squid.
It's okay. But, no, we had an officer. We were in Taiwan. And he went around, he went to one of the, store for $100, or actually $200, $100 a piece. He bought 2 binnacles, nice wooden ones. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at one, and he was ready to sell it to me. And if I found a way to raise $400 that he asked for, I'd have bought it. Every gauge, the compass, everything in it was all built by Lionel Corporation.
Wow.
And it was beautiful wood. I mean, it was gorgeous. But see, it was good. They like one of the stories that a lot of people don't realize, they had the largest chicken farm on the East Coast. They found out that the egg yolks, see, the paint was oil-based at that time. And every time they painted the bottom and they put the oil in, all of a sudden it get all cloudy. So they needed an emulsifying agent.
Egg yolks.
Yep.
Egg yolks in there.
Yep.
They had the best breakfast menu of egg whites, let me tell you. That is what has been said. But yeah, like I was talking, I have a mystery I got to solve. I found a Golden Gate Bridge. About that big.
Okay.
Made of wood and metal.
Okay.
I mean, just the bridge section itself is a single casting. It is wide enough for 2 standard gauge tracks. So we're talking bigger than the Lionel Hellscape.
Sounds like an Ives unit.
Huh?
Ives. IVES. They were big in the standard gauge trains.
Well, yes, I know. They had 2 tracks in there. I looked at the track, and I already dismissed Lionel. I'm going to take a track out. Well, what it is, I'm going to restore it best I can. I'm trying to figure. I could not find any markings on it. Who made it?
That could have been Ives, Buddy L, all the
Well,
big
I'm
standard
saying
gauge
yes.
guys.
It could be. It could be American Flyer. It could have been Dorfam. Ives.
I would go with Ives only because they were the biggest and they had the most out there.
Any possibility it's Marks?
That could be Marks too, yeah.
Trust me, there's no template on it. But I mean, the way the bridge is built, it's got like a toolbox on the side. I opened it up. All complete wiring in there. When I look down on the stanchions on the columns, they got signal lights in there, over or under.
Huh.
When I pulled that little lid up, they got a knife switch. Pull it up, you complete. I mean, so it does receive power. So them lights do work, I guess. It was on a table sitting at Chicagoland Hobbies. And I took $30 of my allowance that my wife gave me, and I put it down. It's on layaway right now. And I'm going to use all my allowance for the next couple months so I can pay it off. Because that way she won't holler at me for using my credit card.
I know the table you talk about. I bought an MRC power pack for my N scale off that table.
Okay, yeah, one of the 3 tables sitting in front. And I sat there. I went in on Monday with a friend of mine, Larry Serwin, because he wanted to pick up some parts for Burke. And I saw, he and I were both looking at it. I got to thinking, and I'm sitting there. I woke up the next morning. I'm going to save it. I don't want to lose it. And I went down and worked aside with it. But, somebody said, well, maybe, the wood construction. Somebody I said, yeah, well, if they did a heck of a job doing the casting. So I know it has to be, like, could have been part of a kit or something like that.
Could have been a Gilbert, too.
I don't think Gilbert on that one.
Well, I'm thinking a Rector set more than that.
Yeah, well, you look at it, I don't think of a Rector set when I see it.
Okay. I'd have to see
like
it.
I said, the column is all wood.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me. When I get it, I'll bring it up here and show you guys.
I'm thinking Buddy Elbow.
Just as an off-the-wall, is it possible it was a pre-production prototype?
It could be. I have no idea. That's why, like, when I can get the plates off, if I can get one of the tracks out, that would give me a good indication. Because usually on the ties is the name of the company.
On the table where we all sit when we do this show, I brought a few vehicles. I used to do the Christmas party for the Emerald Society every year. And I was telling Brian before we started, I took the K-Line police station and repainted it, and it made it into a Garda police station, the Garda being the National Police Force of Ireland. And I took the volunteer fire department and made it into the Irish Fire Brigade, and there are 4 vehicles sitting in front of me. 2 Irish Fire Brigade trucks and 2 Garda vehicles. The smaller one is a Euro Ford Garda patrol vehicle, and the larger one is most probably a Land Rover Garda car.
Yeah, it looks like Land Rover.
And then, these trucks look to be Volvo just because it has the diagonal slash across the front grille. Oh, well, the one's a Mercedes. This one definitely looks like a Volvo with the slash grille. They're nicely detailed. They have the slide up doors to hold all the fire department stuff in them. The non-ladder truck has a raft with oars on top along with the spare tire. And the problem was, when I'd put these out, the little boys would try to steal the Garda vehicles. Irish party, Irish boys, Irish police cars. The little girls, being the devious creatures that they are, would try to steal the Barbie Corvette. About 15 or 20 years ago, Hallmark came out with the Barbie Corvette ornament. And I took a pair of side cutters and clipped the ornament ring off the top. And, perfectly in scale for Lionel. So someplace on the layout, there's a Chicago police car pulling over Miss Barbie, and someplace else on the layout is the charcoal gray over coral 55 Chevy Bel Air that matches the one my dad had, also being stopped by a Chicago vehicle. And not too long ago, I did a Ford panel van, which is what Chicago used in the late 50s, early 60s for squadrons. And I remember my dad getting stopped near 111th and Halsted by one. So, anyhow, whatever you do with your layout, have fun with it.
My buddy has one. His HO layout's basically set in the hills of Virginia. It's North Fork and Western.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And one of his little towns got a Chicago police car, one being towed and one being booted.
Okay. It's possible. The year I retired, which would make it 17 years ago, so I'll be 17 years retired come the middle of June, I went to Washington, D.C. for the National Police Officers Memorial, and they had a Chicago police car there for the parade. So I don't know if it was trailered in or driven in.
Newer one or older one?
Newer.
Newer.
It was current equipment. It was not part of the vintage fleet. And if you don't understand vintage fleet, they're all blue and white squad cars, most with single blue Mars lights. But, and there were other departments there, some with current equipment, some with vintage equipment. So, yeah, it's possible.
I bought a collection of pictures. Guy was sold me the whole thing for $1 just to get rid of it. I was going through them, and there was a picture of a 1960s police car, a 1960 fire truck, Chicago. So it was kind of nice to get some of those old pictures, some around the neighborhood, which surprised me. So whoever this was lived in my neighborhood, apparently, took a lot of the pictures.
Someone sent me a picture. Can you remember CFD inhalators? Inhalators were the Cadillac Miller vehicles the fire department had before they had ambulances and paramedics. My dad used to refer to them as the pull motors.
Oh, yeah, pull motors, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
But they were Cadillac Miller modified vehicles.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, my fire department had two.
Yeah, I knew him by pull motor. I didn't know by another.
there's a retired policeman has one. He had it up at Union a couple of years ago. He also has had a 1973 Dodge Royal Monaco that he bought from the New Jersey State Police. It was all white. It was a detective vehicle and different shade of white, so he had to have it repainted. And please don't tell me that white is white, because there's at least 8 different shades of white in automotive paint that I can tell you from experience. And he had it all decaled out, and he was able to get his hands on the double Mars light, double flasher can, center mounted speaker. And the only thing on it that isn't technically correct is the fender number is an homage to a sergeant that he worked for. So the fender number isn't in the right sequence, but it's a beautiful car. There's also a picture floating around of a 73 Chevy, blue and white, single Mars light, and it's got the 2-inch tall letters on both of the front doors that say evidence technician.
I remember those cars too.
Well, I can remember seeing a picture of a 60 or 61 Plymouth Valiant in blue and white paint with the Chicago Star on the door, because it was one of the cars that O.W. Wilson put into service when he became the superintendent. He was the first superintendent of the Chicago Police Department. The old man brought him in after the Summerdale scandal, and he brought a whole lot of different vehicles in. But it was on a postcard at the candy stand newsstand at 1121 State a long time ago. At any rate,
As our train express finally comes into the terminal, we want to thank you for joining us on our journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and can be listened to on the web at www.windycityhometown.com, where you can listen to tonight's broadcast and all our wonderful past episodes and you can also sample some of our other fine programs that are being offered. Till next month, when we journey to Chicago Junction, I am your announcer, Brian Valou, saying happy rails to you, and good night, Mr. Ryan, wherever you are.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Wednesday, March the 10th, the year 2021. Chicago Junction was produced and directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Wednesday, March the 10th, the year 2021. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening.